on to our first insight session of the year with Federated Hermes. We're super, super excited to have Federated Hermes back again with the internship program for 2024. And it seems like there's a lot more interest than last year because we broke our record, a record for insight events at Beyond Education, to be honest, of 222 people signed up. So we're super excited to kind of bring Federated Hermes to you guys to kind of like, get application tips and insights, learn about the various different opportunities available. And this is your chance to ask as much questions as possible to make sure that you are able to put your best foot forward in the application process. And with that being said, I'll hand it over to the Federated Hermes team to kind of kick off with things.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jessica from the recruitment team. So I'll be supporting with the process, working with Stephen. So yeah, I just thought I'd give you guys some insight and introduce myself. I'm fairly new to the business. I've been here for about 8 months, which I think gives good insight on the culture. And I can say, everyone's super accessible and approachable. So yeah, it's got a great feel to it. So just to give you an overview of how the session will look today, I'll pass you on to Sophie, who will give you an overview of Federated Hermes as a whole, followed by Lorna, our L&D partner, who will then go into a bit more detail about the program, what that involves, what that looks like. And then back to Sophie, who will give you more insight on the sustainable fixed income team. And then Charlie, Belen and Natasha from private equity, who would then also run through their team and what that looks like. Again, any questions or anything like that, write it in the chat. Sophie, I'll pass on to you. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Jess. Hi, everyone. Great to see you all here today. Before I start with an introduction to Federated Hermes, I'll just quickly introduce myself. So I'm Sophie. I've been working in the sustainable fixed income team at Federated Hermes for over 2 years now. And I joined straight out of university. So I'm going to give you just a brief introduction to the company. If we could get the slide up, Jess, you guys will see some cool stats. But yeah, Federated Hermes was founded in 1983 to manage the pension funds of British Telecom, or BT, and the Post Office. We then became Hermes Pension Management in 1998. And then a recent development that's quite important is that we were acquired by Federated, which is based in Pittsburgh, to become Federated Hermes in 2020. So this was pretty significant for us as we went from having approximately $50 billion of assets under management on the London side to now having $715 billion of assets under management today, once combined with the assets of Federated. So we offer solutions across a wide range of asset classes, including equity, fixed income, real estate, private equity, private debt, and money market products. And since our founding in 1983, I think what makes us special is that we've been devoted to creating sustainable wealth for investors through stewardship. So what is stewardship? Stewardship comes from the word steward, so someone who is appointed to look after another person's property. But when you think about it in financial terms, this is a representative of the owner of an asset who acts within the owner's interests and enhances the value of that asset. So we act as stewards by taking an active approach to investing, informed through the consideration of financial, environmental, social, and governance factors to mitigate potential risks and identify opportunities. But this also involves engaging with our investee companies. So using the fact that we are a financial stakeholder to try and change the way that our investee companies operate for the better and enhance long-term value for our clients. And engagement has been a part of our approach since 1983, when our CEO, Ralph Cortano, criticized Marks and Spencer's board for the special loans that they made to their directors. So engagement has always been part of our DNA. I'm going to hand it over to Lorna now. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Sophie. Just, we can't see the slides on screen. I don't know. I didn't want to stop your flow there, Sophie.
Yeah, forgot about those.
Yeah. Apologies, sorry, I thought you could.
Right, I guess everyone can now quickly see that first slide that Sophie was talking to.
There we go.
There we go.
I wondered why I couldn't see myself or see anyone. It was just just the presentation.
No worries. Hopefully I've covered everything on that slide anyway, so.
I think definitely did. Can we flip forward just to the program slide? So there we go. All right, so hi everybody. I believe there's loads of people on the call, so nice to be with you this evening. I'm Lorna Ferguson. I'm the Learning and Talent Development Partner here at FHL. And myself and the team here are going to be responsible for supporting your learning and development whilst you're here with us at FHL, if you get through that first bit of the process. And this is what the 10-week program looks like. So first of all, I'll mention the group project. So all of the interns that come in to work with us get the opportunity to work together for the duration of the program, and on a particular project brief. I'll show you an example of a project brief in a minute. So you get the project brief and then you get to work together on it, and then at the end of the program you get to present your findings to a senior panel and to managers, and you get feedback and as part of that process. So a really great challenge, and it enables you to work together as well. As well as that group project, you'll also be invited to join lots of other opportunities. So you get an introduction to asset management, which is a full day training, which is run by one of our leading study providers. And then internally, we organise a raft of lunch and learns. They tend to be over lunch, just to make them even better. So you will get through those lunch and learns an insight into lots of different areas of the business, so including responsibility team, EOS team, sales, operations, trading, equities, real estate. So a real insight into all of the different areas of the FHL business. And you get to spend time with the professionals that actually work in those teams day to day, ask your questions. There's usually a bit of a presentation and, as I say, lunch, of course. You also get access to a number of different business skills sessions, and you can see those listed on the slide, so I won't read them out to you. That tends to be a single day where you'll run through all those different topics and again get to network and get to practice those skills. You'll also get a CV and interview skills workshop. Whilst you're here at FHL, there'll be things going on generally in the firm. So because it's summer, there'll be the summer social. So you get to join in with that, and I'm sure that will be super fun. It will be my first one as well, because I've only joined FHL recently too. And we also have a number of different employee network groups. They're always running different events. So that's things like our gender network, race and ethnicity network, multi-generational. We have a number of different groups. This is a real focus for us here at FHL. And so they'll be running things and they'll be open to you as well to participate in. So that's a high-level overview of what you get across the 10-week programme. Jess, can we get the next slide? This should say 2023. I realised that as we were talking in the beginning. This is just an example of the schedule from last year. And the reason that I included this is just to highlight to you that the learning and development support that you get is across the 10 weeks. So it's not all squashed into the beginning or into the end. There's something going on almost every week whilst during your time here. And that gives you the opportunity to talk to other interns that maybe are in other departments, to get out of your day-to-day and work on additional skills in addition to those discipline-specific skills that are obviously going to be your top priority, but there'll be a lot of other things going on for you across the whole 10 weeks. So that's why I included this one. And then just to the next one, please. it's my last one, I'm sure you'll all be glad to know, is the project brief. So I just wanted to give you an example of what that looks like. So this is an example from last year. You'd be given some background information, and then from that information as a group, you would pull together an investment proposal, a fund proposal, and then also tying into that your understanding of FHL services and how those can form part of the pitch. You'll then create a pitch, and as I say, you get to present that to a senior panel. So it's a fantastic opportunity to hone those skills and also get feedback from the professionals that we've got working in the business. So a really great challenge. So that's actually all I've got to share with you this evening. I hope it's enough of an insight into the programme, and I'll be happy to take questions, I think, a bit later. And Stephen's going to field some in the chat as well. So there you go. That's me. So who's next? I
think it's me.
Absolutely.
There you go. Thank you.
Thanks, Lorna. If we can go to the next slide. Okay, there we go. Yeah, so I'll talk a bit about the Sustainable Fixed Income team. So the Sustainable Fixed Income team, or the SFI team, is a dedicated sustainability team within the wider fixed income team. That's the name should obviously show you. We were founded in 2019 by our boss, Mitch, who is in the leftmost little bubble there on the slide. And the point of our team is that we own the sustainable investment objective for our funds. So this means that our job is to have an independent view on the sustainability credentials of the companies we invest in. And this helps us to deliver into the dual objectives of many of our funds that aim for both strong financial returns and contribution towards environmental and social objectives. So for example, we have some climate change funds, which have a financial objective to beat the benchmark, but also a sustainability objective, which is written into the documentation of the fund in the same way that the financial objective is. And that sustainability objective is to invest in companies that are working to reduce their carbon footprint significantly. So we help the portfolio managers pick the right companies for these funds using our proprietary sustainability scores. So whilst the credit team have their own scores, those are the ones in blue in that little circle, to reflect their opinions on a company's financials. So this is expressed on a 1 to 5 scale. If you assign a company a 1, they're the best, we should invest a lot in it. If you assign a 5, they are the worst, we should not invest in them at all. We do the exact same thing as that, but considering a company's outward impact on society and the environment. So it's important to note that the credit team also consider environmental and social factors in their assessment within their ESG score. You can see that blue bubble there. But this considers the inward, it's an inward-looking assessment. So it considers the impact of environmental, social, and governance factors on a company's enterprise value. Whereas we look outward and we look at the company's impact on society and the environment, if that makes sense. So the way that we do that is we have our sustainability scores. I've included some examples on here. So we have the climate change impact score, which assesses how ambitious a company's climate strategy is and how likely it is to execute on these promises. And then we have the SDG score, which looks at the likelihood of a company contributing positive SDG-aligned impacts of the SDGs being the Sustainable Development Goals, as well as our potential to affect change at the company through engagement. So if we go to the next slide, I can talk a bit about day in the life. So for context, my job is split between assigning and updating sustainability scores that I spoke about, and carrying out engagements with our portfolio companies. So really, we structure our own days. Each of us in the team have our own list of companies that we cover, and we have to refresh our opinions on these companies and engage with them throughout the year. So it's up to us how we achieve that, basically. For example, I cover banks and financials, pulp and paper, metals and mining, and chemicals companies, and I need to make sure that my opinions on those companies are up to date and that I engage them regularly. And a lot of the day is spent carrying out our own research, so looking through company reporting, but also third-party sources like ESG data providers, news articles, etc. And then this research informs our sustainability scores and engagement agendas. We also participate in meetings with the credit team. So for example, we participate in their credit committee, which is where we go into a deep dive on a specific name. The credit analyst gives their financial views and we give our sustainability views and then come up with a final recommendation for the PMs, or the portfolio managers. And we work with a team in London, but also in Pittsburgh. So we helped to launch a sustainability fund in Pittsburgh last year, which was a really interesting project. And we actually have 2 SFI team members out in Pittsburgh as well. We also do our own reporting. So we write annual reports, case studies, and thought leadership pieces on our own work. And this can also be really interesting and rewarding work. And then we're also responsible for making sure that our processes and our methodologies are up to date and that they're responsive to emerging trends and challenges in the industry. So what it takes to succeed as an intern in the SFI team, obviously passion for sustainability. Don't need to explain that one too much, but you also need to have an awareness of how sustainability issues relate to finance and the private sector overall. You need to have strong analytical abilities, so the ability to come up with an opinion and back this up with evidence, but also the ability to communicate this opinion and back it up to others when challenged or questioned on it. And lastly, you need to have strong time management skills because, as I said, our days do not have a defined structure. No one is watching over you every minute of the day. So you're in charge of organizing your day and just ensuring that you achieve your tasks on time. So yeah, I guess I'm opening up to questions, right?
Yes, no, thank you for the comprehensive overview, Sophie. That was really insightful. I'm trying to kind of put some sort of democracy in the chat because there's a lot of questions coming through. So I've got people to vote on which questions they would like answered. So I think someone wanted a bit of practical insight, right? So can you give an example of what makes a 1-score company versus a 5-score company, if that's something that you can do?
Definitely. So I'll use our climate change score as an example. So a company scoring what we would call a CCI 1 in this case would be a company that has really ambitious decarbonization targets. So for example, they would be verified by the Science Based Targets Initiative as 1.5 degree aligned, so as in line with the Paris Agreement, that means. But not only would they have these strong targets, they also would explain to us exactly how they plan to achieve these targets. So they'd outline all the underlying initiatives. So are they going to increase their renewable energy consumption? By how much? What kind of CapEx projects that they're going to be investing in to decarbonize their processes? So yeah, we look for that evidence as to what they're going to be doing, but we also look at the data to understand how are they doing so far. So a CCI 1 would be a company that has continued to decarbonize in the past. So they've already showed a strong trajectory of decarbonizing in the past few years. And if not, maybe they explain why they had a little blip in 2021 or something, and they have a strong explanation as to why this is going to improve in the short term. CCI 1s would also be, there's evidence that people at the top levels of management are convinced of the climate strategy. They might even have some of their climate targets integrated into their bonus, into their kind of incentive plan for their bonus. So they are fully incentivized to deliver on this strategy. So those are some of the things that we look for. It's definitely not an automated process. It's very human capital intensive, and we have to basically assess whether a company is telling the truth and is being genuine, or are they greenwashing. So that would be a 1, and then a 5 would be one that is doing harm to the climate and is not doing anything to mitigate that harm, or is not taking sufficient action to mitigate that harm. So they'd have no targets. They wouldn't acknowledge the importance of climate change to their business and the importance of acting on it. Yeah, in our view, that those kinds of companies are then uninvestable for these funds.
Right. No, thank you for that comprehensive overview. And I guess like the key takeaway is really like if the company is genuine in their plans to kind of like, you know, approach sustainability as opposed to just saying it from an optic standpoint. Lots of very interesting questions here with close votes. The next question I had was, I think this one's quite interesting. Are you leveraging new technology like AI to assist how you pick companies for a fund?
Okay, we're not using AI at the moment, but I think there are lots of opportunities to do so. For example, there are technologies that go through companies' annual reports and kind of summarize the main conclusions that we should be looking into and that we should focus on. So I can see that being really useful for our work. So to give a brief answer, we're not using AI right now, but it's definitely something that we are looking into and very interested in. In terms of ESG data, it's a field that is constantly evolving, hopefully getting more sophisticated over time because it is a challenging area. But yeah, I think anything that can help us to sift through and kind of identify the most material points that we should be focusing on is something we will be interested in the long term.
Perfect. And a final question from Khalid, a bit of a commercial one. How might sustainable investing be influenced or reshaped due to current interest rates over the last 18 months? Are there specific aspects or priorities within sustainable investments that may change from your perspective? Again, Sophie, I'm sorry to welcome you back into work with such intense questions, but people want answers. They want answers, Sophie.
I would say just talking about the general macroeconomic environment, obviously we are in a cost of living crisis. So this is something that companies have to consider for their employees and for their customers as well. So on the social side, it's definitely something that we have to take into account and we have to be aware of. We need to make sure that companies are taking care of their employee base and I mean, honestly, it's always something that we consider, but it's especially a challenging environment right now. So I'd say, yeah, when we look at the social aspect of ESG and of sustainability overall, the current macroeconomic environment adds challenges for companies to deal with, and we need to make sure they're taking the necessary action to overcome those challenges.
Noted.
These are great questions, guys.
No,
I
honestly,
remember last year as well. I was like, wow.
No, honestly, they came prepared this time, but thank you so much for that, Sophie. I'm guessing we can move on to the next session.
Yep, so that's me. So if that's I think if that works, I'm gonna give you an overview of our team, the infrastructure team, and then I'll let a couple other colleagues introduce themselves and explain a bit of what they do, because that will give you a better idea of what we do day to day. So we are the infrastructure team within Federated Hermes. We invest in private companies, so non-listed companies in the infrastructure sector. We included kind of a map and a list of our portfolio assets, because I guess the best way for you to understand what kind of assets we invest in is just to see a few examples. So as you can see, we've got so in the order that they're on the slide, ABP, Associated British Ports. It's a leading ports group in the UK that owns and operates 21 ports in the UK. We also own a stake in Cadent, which you may have seen, you may be familiar with the name, but it operates and maintains the largest gas distribution network in the UK. you'll be probably much more familiar with Eurostar, which is a business that operates high-speed rail, connecting cities across 5 countries in Europe, and you may have even tried the cross-channel routes from London. We've got an onshore wind farm in Scotland, Falagorig. We've got a portfolio of roads in Spain. We've also got Scanlines, which is a ferry operator. It operates routes between Germany and Denmark. We've got Southern Water, which is a company that supplies water and provides wastewater services to a large number of customers in the UK. We've lost the slide, I think, but I'll continue. We've also got a wind farm in Sweden. And finally, Verder, which is a kind of diversified waste to energy, recycling and waste management company. So as you'll see, all within the infrastructure sector, but quite diversified, mix of transport, renewables, utilities, some names that you may be familiar with. And in terms of what we do in our team, well, first we're a team of 14 people plus a couple of team assistants. We manage just over 3 billion of assets under management, so investments worth over 3 billion. Our clients tend to be institutional investors, most of them pension funds, mostly from the UK, but we've got some other European ones. We tend to invest in operating businesses, so businesses that already have kind of a track record, have been operating for a few years, are relatively stable. We can predict the revenues to an extent. So that's kind of, these are some key infrastructure characteristics. As we say on the slide, responsible investment is really very important in all our activities. So when we make an investment from the beginning, we make sure that it's got some kind of we have like a list of criteria that we make sure the investment complies with, but also once we've made the investment, we also make sure there's a sustainability strategy in place. We set ourselves some goals, and we always try and kind of show how our investments are trying to either meet those goals or just trying to make significant improvements from a sustainability perspective. So the different members of our team, we all do a bit of everything, but we all tend to have some kind of focus on an area of the business. So first, there's kind of business development, which would be more like just reaching out to clients and trying to raise new money, especially in periods of time where we're raising a new fund, so launching a new product. And that's, for example, something we're looking to do in the next few months. Then we've got kind of the origination activities that would be looking for potential new investments. So we'll look at companies and just do extensive due diligence and decide whether they're a good investment for our fund. And then we've got some people that are more focused on asset management. So that would be looking after our existing portfolios of investments, monitoring the portfolio, trying to find ways to generate more value from our investments. And then finally, there's always some kind of investor relations activities going on, just dealing with existing investors. We get lots of requests. We need to provide information to them. And as I said, I mean, most members of the team work across all of these activities, but we all kind of specialize a bit on something. And I think hopefully that should give you a good overview of the team. Shall we just introduce ourselves and then we can look at the questions? So I see there's already a few.
Yes, please, Belen. That would be great if we can kind of get the other members of the team to give a bit of insight into what they do within the team.
Yeah, and well, I can start because I guess I haven't really introduced myself, but I'm Belen. I'm an associate director in the team. I've been here since 2015. And I've spent a lot of my time on origination, so working on new transactions, trying to identify companies that would suit our portfolio and comply with our funds requirements. But yeah, as I said, I'm involved in a bit of everything on a day-to-day basis, and sometimes, you know, the team's requirements mean we all spend more time on asset management or on business development or whatever is kind of more relevant at the time. So we've got Charlie and Tash from our team. Don't know who wants to go next. Okay.
Yeah, I can go next. Thanks for them. Hi there, everyone. Nice to meet you. So my name is Charlie Studdy. So I'm a associate in the team. I've been part of the team now for a couple of years. So before that, I came from a more financial modelling and valuations type background. So as Belen said previously, that the team members share the responsibilities between the asset management of our existing assets and the origination desks. In terms of my specific functions in the team, so on the asset management side, I help to manage our stake in ABP, which is the port company in the UK with about 21 separate ports, and also the wind farm portfolio, which is over in Sweden, which is named Ventus. So that consists of five separate wind farms separated throughout Sweden, consisting of 200 or so turbines. And then the third asset, which I help to manage, is over in Spain, and that's the Iridium Hermes toll roads. After you, Tash.
Yep. Hi, everyone. I'm Tash Williams. So I'm also an associate in the infrastructure team. I've been with Hermes for just over 2 years now, and before that, I was with Deloitte for 6 years. So my main focus in the team is on the asset management side of things. So both at a portfolio level, and then I'm involved with the asset management at Cadent Gas and Fallago Rig, which is our Scottish onshore wind farm. And at a portfolio level, I help out with the kind of valuations of these assets across the portfolio.
Nice, thank you for that, guys. We have the questions coming in hot. One that I think is particularly interesting: do you fear the nationalization of key infrastructure, for example, under potential Labour government in the future? So I think what that person is really trying to ask is more so the fact that, is it harder to kind of get deals now that a lot of these assets are really being owned by the government, and how does that impact the work that you guys do? And that question was from Jack. So who wants to take that one?
That's a very, very good question. Yeah, so this is something that we've definitely talked about in the team and considered. We probably thought that was a much bigger risk a few years ago, and I think it was in the last election that it was in the Labour Party's manifesto, so it was a real risk for us. I think this time probably we feel, I mean, we still haven't heard on, you know, what the Labour Party's plans would be, but I think this time we feel it's probably not as big a risk as it was. But there are other risks that some utility companies, especially water companies, are facing at the moment. The only thing is, in the event of nationalization, I think it's well, there we would expect to get back a lot of the money we invested there. I mean, and we know that, for example, we would expect a sensible government to be very careful with like the precedent they're setting, because of course if they didn't pay us a fair price for something like that, investment in the UK would really suffer after that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Noted. Does anyone else have any perspective on that? Charlie and Natasha, I'm not sure if you wanted to kind of cover
that. Yeah, I think from my perspective, I mean, so I don't manage any public infrastructure utility type assets, but I would say that the UK government doesn't seem to have a bountiful amount of money. So to nationalise the assets, I think would cost quite a lot. And then in terms of the existing investor base in these types of assets, so such as Thames, etc., Southern Water, a lot of the investor base is obviously predominantly foreign ownership. So if the Labour government was to say nationalise or take an aggressive stance like that, then I think it would severely impact investor confidence in the UK going forward. So I hope that it doesn't happen.
I think what I'm getting is, long story short, I don't think it's in the best, it's in the UK's best interest to do that. And I don't think they even have the capacity to do that, at least with the deficit that they're operating in. Another question that was particularly interesting: how do you practice risk management, especially in more volatile markets, such as, you know, energy, and the kind of assets that you guys are looking after?
I'd say, well, from the kind of, at least from the beginning, when we look at an investment, before we make the investment, we do really like we do very extensive due diligence on the assets. We a very important part of this kind of due diligence process is financial modeling. We tend to produce Excel models that kind of forecast the cash flow, the future cash flows that we expect that company to generate, and that allows us to run lots of these different scenarios. So what would happen if, I don't know, inflation was higher, lower interest rates, if or in this case you're asking what energy, so electricity prices went up or down this much. So, and when we make an investment, we tend to have a good view of what kind of risks and what the investment has. We adjust the price of the investment accordingly. Of course, we can't fully mitigate risks, but when we see a big risk, it's either going to be a risk that we think we can accept, or if we can't, we may look for ways to mitigate it. So with some kind of, for example, contracts that let us have a bit more visibility of our revenues, or in the case of things like interest rates, you know, there are ways we can hedge these interest rates with swaps or fixed rate debt. So it's kind of and that's on a kind of from an origination perspective, but then we kind of tend to repeat this kind of exercise regularly once we own the assets. So we have we maintain some kind of risk register for each of our assets, and we review the strategy to mitigating those risks and reflect them in the valuation of the assets, because we have to undertake semi-annual valuations of all our assets. But of course, I mean, there's always it is impossible to mitigate all risks, and there's always risk in any investment.
Mm-hmm. No, thank you for that. And it sounds like there's kind of a robust process in place before you even purchase the asset, when you're kind of managing the asset, and of course, like periodically as well, just making sure that you're kind of monitoring to understand how you can mitigate future risk as well. Another question that was particularly interesting, didn't get that much votes, but I'm biased, so I'm going to ask this question: what emerging trends do you see in the infrastructure private equity market, and how are they influencing investment decisions currently?
I mean, I'd say I guess now the macro environment is really driving a lot of these. We've seen interest rates go up a lot the last few months, and that's definitely impacting valuations. It's impacting kind of refinancing structures and strategies. Sorry, for lots of companies, and we have seen a lot less kind of investment transactions the past few months because of the uncertainty in kind of macroeconomic environment in general, and then obviously all of the kind of transition to net zero is really like playing a very key role in infrastructure, because a lot of investment will be required in the next few years, you know, to kind of just adapt the country, or I guess, and the world in general, to the new kind of sources of energy, and every company will in every sector will probably look at ways to become more sustainable and meet kind of net zero requirements and all of that. So that's definitely a very big area for us. I don't know,
Nice.
Charlie, Tash, I don't know if there's anything.
No,
I think as Belen alluded to, you've got the changing definition of infrastructure as assets de-risk and go down the risk curve, and and become more applicable for infrastructure funds such as ourselves, as opposed to the private equity markets. I think going forward, as Belen said, you've got the whole wave of kind of next generation infrastructure assets. So kind of hydrogen, green hydrogen, carbon capture storage, EV charging networks as well. So I think that those are all spaces which we'll be interested in going forward over the coming years.
Nice. No, thank you for that insight. I think I want to kind of move over to more general questions. Because I think a lot of these questions are great, guys, and I think these are questions that you should table if you do get through to the interview stage. To be honest, because they're quite great questions, and of course, if any of the team can kind of answer some of the questions in the chat as well by replying back, that'll be much appreciated. But I think general questions, just circling back to the infrastructure team, what are some of the key skills that will make someone stand out in this application process? What kind of core competencies are you looking for? Not sure, Natasha, if you can kind of provide perspective on that.
I think probably just kind of a good attitude, willing to learn, is probably one of the most valuable qualities we're looking for, and a genuine interest in these sorts of assets. So these kind of big names that everyone recognizes, I think would be perfect.
Nice, perfect. And I think a general question for the wider Federated Hermes team, I think I saw one in the chat about, what's made you guys stay so long, or what's made you just stay in Federated Hermes as an organization. So maybe kind of like, some insight into the culture. Sophia, I see you pop back online. Maybe you want to take that one.
Yeah, sure. I'd say my team is a major feature there. We have a great dynamic. We're all friends as well as colleagues. So I think that's really important to appreciate the people that you work with. I also appreciate the work-life balance at Hermes. There's, a lot of jobs in finance make you kind of not have a life outside of work, and that's very much not the case here. Work-life balance is really good, and you could still enjoy your free time and work hard at the same time. And I think I think those are some of the main things, other than just really loving the content of what I work on every day, because I'm passionate about sustainability. So being able to focus on that subject day to day is motivating.
Noted. Another general one as well. I think kind of speaking on your point of content and liking the content of what you do, Sophie, I think a bit of insight into how you are able to sharpen your commercial awareness would kind of be useful, because I think in the fast moving world of so much stuff and so much information, what are some of like the good sources to kind of consume information about like your field of work? So I think maybe we'll go around the room, and maybe I'll start with you, Sophie. If you can mention your one source, like your one go-to source that you're like, I like going to this website because it has all the information I need. Like, what would that be?
I think just staying on top of the news, to be honest. I listen to podcasts in the morning. So there's like the FT news briefing is a 10-minute kind of summary of everything that's going on in the world today. So I think that helps you. I guess that's one tip from my side.
What about you, Charlie? What's your go-to source?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I have a particular go-to source. I think as Sophie said, it's important to stay abreast of news developments. I think working in infrastructure, it's quite important to kind of remain on top of what's happening in the political world. As quite a lot of our assets have that kind of interface with the political governments through subsidies which we receive or some other form. So I think that would be my takeaway.
Natasha, any hidden gems, go-to sources of news that you like to consume?
I guess on the subject of podcasts, there's a website called Information. They have a podcast which is worth a listen if you're interested.
Nice. What about you, Belen?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure I've got like a go-to source, but yeah, just obviously reading the news regularly and sometimes keeping an open mind about how it may impact your work, and kind of if there's anything related to your industry, definitely read it. And then there are I didn't know about the Information podcast. That's good to know. But there are sources of news that are more like specialized in the sector, such as Information, that the more you read them, then you become familiar with like names in the industry, so competitors and companies, and So all of that's really useful.
Nice. Personal recommendation from my side. There's a newsletter called Exec Sum, and what it does is it kind of like flips commercial awareness on its head, specifically in the finance industry, and kind of like adds a bit of humor into it, and it kind of makes the content a bit more digestible, because obviously we understand that there's a lot of like jargon within, like, you know, the context of a lot of these investment news and whatnot. So that might be one to check out for you guys. I think a final question I had, just to kind of demystify and kind of put people at ease, is that do you need to be like super technical, right, to kind of like, you know, participate in the internship? Because I think sometimes some people often fear that, you know, going into investment roles, at least at the internship level, you kind of need to know how to do all the financial models from start to finish. So it'd be interesting to understand your perspective on if that is, you know, something that you really need at the internship level. Anyone can take that. That's an open one.
Definitely from my side, nothing hugely technical. We don't have any kind of requirement as to what you've had to be studying so far, or any kind of knowledge in that sense, just passion for sustainability, and obviously kind of understanding how sustainability topics would apply to a company, and, you know, kind of understanding of what kind of challenges that might involve. But you can honestly figure that out from reading the news and just general common sense. Like it's there's no massive like technical background that's required, definitely for the role with the SFI.
Nice. Natasha, any perspective from your side for your team? Is, you know, sound financial modeling needed at the internship level? Is that something that you require?
No, so I would say it definitely isn't needed at the internship level. I think the most important thing is a willingness to learn, because we're kind of here to help you learn those things as you do the internship.
Perfect. No, thank you for that. I think that pretty much like wraps up the session. I kind of want to use the last couple of minutes to kind of just give a bit of insight into applications, and kind of like a few insight on like the process as a whole. Guys, all these questions are really great. I'd say save them for, you know, potentially going through to the interviews. Feel free to connect with some of our panelists today and kind of like ask them those questions as well, and also research them as well. You know, this is like a great way for you to kind of like get insight about these different departments that you want to get into. But just a few insights on the internship program. So we are going to be making the applications live now again. So I think there was a period that we kind of like closed them so people can come to the insight events and get as much information as possible to kind of inform your application. So the applications will be live tonight on our website. And you know, take all these tips on board as well. We're also going to make the recording of this session live as well on our website, so you can kind of watch it back. I like to watch things in like 2x speed, or reduce it to like a slower speed as well, just to make sure that I'm getting all the information I need to really like put my best foot forward as well. So I'd advise you guys do that. And then lastly, we're going to send a feedback form to everyone that participated in this session, to kind of provide your feedback on how you like the session to be better, what you liked, what you didn't like, because that informs the way we run these sessions moving forward. But with that being said, thank you guys so much, you know, for coming to this session. Thank all the panelists here for taking the time out. You know, this is after work hours, you know, and they don't have to be here, but they've spent their time, you know, to come and give you the session. So, you know, send your thank yous in the chats. Like, I'm literally not going to leave this chat to you guys say thank you. With that being said, I will be sending all the details to all of you guys after as well. So, yep, the thank yous are on in. Nice. We love to see it. But thank you, Federated Hermes. And with that being said, we're going to have another session tomorrow covering marketing, technology, and the fund administration department as well. So make sure you guys turn up to that. But thank you guys so much, and I leave you all to it.
Thanks everyone. Thanks Stephen for organizing as well.
That's no
Thanks
problem.
everyone.